It is 5:30, so I'll call the meeting to order. Up first, we have a new employee introductions. Kelly, you want to start?
Actually, you kind of did it last time.
Okay.
I didn't really prep anything. So David, this is David Anderson. He comes to us. He lives in the city of Carver. He's actually on Chaska Fire too, so they'll be doing joint venture. So Dave, if you could give a little intro of yourself.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. So I've lived in Carver for about 3. Dave Anderson, married, 2 kids. My wife's Tiffany, boys Noah and Ethan. They're 9 and 6. So we've been in Carver since 2018, and we were in Chaska, moved to Chaska in 2007, so we were there, 11 years, and then moved here into Carver. So love the city, love the area in general, so what else? I'm an outdoorsy guy, like just getting involved in things. That's kind of what got me to Chaska Fire, and being that I had the experience there, decided to join the great team over here in Carver. Like I told Callie and Brent, I got tired of driving by the Carver Fire Station and kind of go to Chaska Fire now. So thought I'd bring that experience and skill set here too. So glad to be city employee now and going well so far.
Welcome. So as Kelly warned you, we like to play 2 truths and a lie, so everybody gets to play. So
yeah,
have at
okay.
it.
So with my Chaska Fire experience, like I said, I've been on that department about 13 years. But the part of this is I've got a family connection. My dad was the fire chief there, so that's one.
Okay.
2.
Last name?
Huh?
Last name?
Anderson.
Same as he's
Yeah, yeah.
That was a question? I was grilling him.
getting hints here. 2, sang in a choir at Westminster Abbey in London one time, and 3, spent time playing amateur baseball with the Chaska Cubs.
Oh.
So what's the number? Is that
The one that we think
that's
is a
the
lie.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I feel like it's not one if Kelly's guessing 3. Okay, we've got to
Ah.
get mix.
All right.
Which one's the lie?
1.
Oh!
So at Chaska Fire, and there is a Dan Anderson who was the chief, but
No,
I'm
Dan
not
as well.
no relation.
Nicely played.
But I get asked that all the time. Oh, are you Dan Anderson's kid? No.
Well, welcome.
Thank
Good to have you.
Yes.
Glad that you're working for Carver in addition to Chaska. So. With that, we're good. You're welcome to stay for the entire work session and then the city council meeting if you'd like. But,
Nice to meet you guys.
Say hi to Jared.
Huh?
Say hi.
Will do.
Are you going to be a Carver Black Sox player anytime soon?
I was going to say we played against them once. Maybe. There's an opening. I don't know if I still got it. How it goes.
thank you. All right. Up next is reviewing the 2022 draft fee schedule. This sounds good.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Each fall, city staff reviews the various fees that are charged by the city and recommends the changes necessary for the following year. At this time, the recommendations are being presented to the City Council for review and feedback only. When adopted at a future meeting, the ordinance setting those fees will take effect January 1, 2022. If anybody is interested, I also brought some extra hard copies of the fee schedule that is in the council packet, just for a little bit easier and quicker reference there. The plan schedule for review and then adoption is as follows. Tonight, as you know, we are reviewing the draft at our work session. Then on December 20th, our last meeting of December, last meeting of the year, there will be a public hearing to go over those fees. And then if the council agrees with those, then it would be the actual formal adoption of that fee ordinance. And then January 1, 2022 is when the fees would actually become effective. In the packet, the summary of the proposed changes, we added some building permit fees for investigations and clarified some permit cancellation fees. We changed cemetery fees with regard to location of grave and monument site and then transfer of the grave site. Changed the assessment certification fee, added a rental fee for Carver Station's parking lot, changed utility connection charges and utility rates based on the long-term plan, and then changed water meter charges to reflect actual costs. So again, we'll go through that and see what questions you have, and city staff is here to answer any questions that you may have. On the attachment that was in the packet, The changes are highlighted in red and yellow. So the first change there is on page 2, and this has to do with the permits. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on those.
Can you explain the work without permit?
Sure. So right now, if someone on our inspection team or city staff goes out and sees someone doing work that we know hasn't been permitted,
Got it, okay.
we tell them to stop. And sometimes people get a little bit sassy and they say like, what are you gonna do? And right now we say like, nothing.
We're gonna take rent.
So our city code, actually, our ordinances say you can double the permit fee, but it's not in our fee schedule. So we haven't been able to enforce it because it's listed in the ordinance but not the fee schedule. So this just cleans it up that it ties them together.
Okay, so you catch me putting a deck on the back of my house without a permit, and now that permit's gonna cost twice as much.
So it's not the whole permit fee. So if you think about a new construction family home, that can feel kind of overwhelming, that it could be 14 to 16 grand for just permitting, but those are things like the connection fees included in that.
Uh-huh.
So it's just the building permit fee. So for windows, that would be $64. We would double that when they come in for a permit. So instead of 64 for the building permit fee, we do 128. So we would double it when they come in for permit. So if someone had the guts to build a new construction home without a permit, it ranges from, it's based on valuation. So for a $200,000 home, the permit fee is about $1,500. For a $400,000 home, it's about $3,000. So we would double just that one fee, not the entire permit.
And this applies only if I get busted kind of, and not if I come in retroactively?
So if you come in retroactively and in earnest, did not know that you needed a permit for XYZ, I think we'd be happy to work with someone.
Okay.
If it's a small project, if someone's building a new home without a permit, I think we would move forward with the double permit fee anyways.
Okay.
Can I put on that question first? So, no matter what happens, we are going to double it, because this says equal to the permit fee.
So in the city ordinance, it says we have the ability to double. So it says permit fee required by ordinance. So it ties back to the city code.
Okay, so when you say we have the ability to double, it is in there that we will double it?
Correct.
Okay. That seems a,
How many instances have there been with a new home?
Never.
right. There was something about that, it didn't seem very clear to me, so I don't know if we need to add something in the notes. I couldn't, which is probably why we have questions, because we're not exactly clear on it, so equal to permit fee. So what if you, just to say, what if the neighbor calls and says, my neighbor's out building a deck? And, because to me, when I read this, it says investigation fee, so when you go out and he's not building a deck, there's no fee, right?
Right.
So it just says, okay.
It could just be work without a permit too. We don't need the investigation fee on there.
That might make me feel a little bit better.
Sure.
Yeah. That might be where I got hung up too. That and it's a new fee.
This doesn't come up very often, and when it does, it's usually people who know better than what they should be doing. So we'd like to have the ability, obviously with some discretion, that if a homeowner is replacing a window and didn't know, do some education instead.
You good to keep moving through?
Thank you.
So just to clarify, the final draft will not include the investigation fee. We'll just take that comment out of there.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving along, the next change is on page 4. As I mentioned, we are looking at increasing those particular fees, mainly just due to the amount of staff time that we are spending in investigating what people can do in those situations, and then we have to create an internal work order, and then public services needs to physically go there and then mark both areas for the grave site or for the marker. And then if we are involved in a transferring of a grave site, we need to do some investigation on what they can do and what they can't do, and then we have to modify the deed accordingly. So it's really based on the amount of time that we're spending, so we're looking at increasing those fees. Any questions on that? Okay. The next one, assessment certification. As you know, tonight we have the public hearing for the certification of delinquent utilities. A little bit of history on this. We used to, as a city, when people had delinquent utilities, we would go through the process of turning water off. With COVID, we stopped that process and we moved toward a model of certifying those fees. And so overall, staff is just spending a lot more time mailing out delinquent letters every month. And then once a utility becomes delinquent for 3 months, that's when we go track the certification process that you will see at the hearing tonight, or at the public hearing tonight. So again, this is really based on, again, I think 2 things. The first one is just the amount of time, the extra time that we're spending now in sending out those letters and tracking all of that. And then the second thing, in looking at what other cities do, other cities are charging much more than what we were charging, and even we still wouldn't be charging as much as other cities are doing, but we would like to look at increasing this, again, just because of the amount of time that we are spending on this.
So this is the fee that we see, on the other memo for the
Yes,
delinquent.
it
So-
says it's 25 currently.
Yep.
Yep.
And this is in addition to late fees?
The late fees would be calculated as part of the delinquent account, so
Right.
that is correct.
And this is when it comes to the point of that 3-month marker.
Correct. And when it's actually being certified to Carver County, it's their final utility bill, and then we add the additional administrative fee for the total, and then that is what actually gets certified to be payable with their property taxes.
So are they getting charged a monthly 20, or whatever the late fee is? Or what's the late fee per month if you have a,
They're in the fee schedule here, I don't remember what they are off the top of my head.
Yeah,
so
I
they're
think
already we are getting $10 a month because they're late, right? What is that? How do we equate that back to what we're doing? What are we doing for that?
That's,
Well, I think, anybody who doesn't pay their utility bill is getting that late fee, but once you get beyond being late a month or 2, that's when we start sending out these reminders each month. And then when it gets to be this 3 months, this time of the year, is when we look at those accounts that are 3 months or older being delinquent, then we start going through the certification process.
So this is only one time a year, so if you're delinquent at the time of certification, you get charged the $45 for the time that it takes Vicky and the city attorney to prepare all the documents.
But even after that 3 months, and they're gonna keep accruing that $10 late fee per month if they don't pay. So every month if they're late, they pay $10 extra.
Well, once this gets certified, basically our account balance goes to 0,
Because it goes to their taxes.
and it goes to their taxes,
Okay.
and then they start over.
Okay.
Yes, it's a very confusing process, it really is.
Okay, that's all, I'm good with it then. Thank you.
Okay, yes, absolutely. Moving along, let's see, the next one is the Carver Station parking lot reservation fee.
And I can add some context to this, so every so often we've gotten requests to reserve the parking lot. It's a public parking lot, but we're looking for a mechanism when someone wants to kind of have an event there, but then kind of use the space and not specifically for the public parking.
Can you give a very general example, something you might?
So we had residents from Carver Crossing want to use part of it for a garage sale. We had, I think,
Food truck.
like the Snowhawks, I'm saying that correctly, wanted to have like a chili feed and use the whole site for that, and so,
We did a mobile pantry food distribution up there.
what's happening when we can't, if we don't have a reservation system, it's basically kind of first come, first serve, and if someone's parking in the area that they want to use that, we don't really have a mechanism, so I feel like this provided a way to kind of say, okay, they're reserving this space for a fee, and so I think it gives the city a better ability.
So when I'm looking at the price for $125 a day, I mean, it sounds like with the examples, a lot of these are more along the nonprofit side or whatever. I would be comfortable with a little bit lower amount, whether it's half, 75 or something like that. Just considering the requests that we've had so far.
Well, and to that end, when I was looking at this, I would almost like to see it tiered, like our city meeting spaces are, so group 1, group 2, group 3, right? So the first one are nonprofits in the city, and that's, whatever, and kind of to keep it in line with that, so that if it's, if I live in Cologne and I want to throw my wedding reception in that parking lot, like, then it's $125. But like, for the nonprofits, I think that it should be a little bit more reasonable, but I do like the idea of having a registration. Even like the residents of Carver Crossing, I think having the different tiers for the resident groups.
If we just get nonprofits at free and then private use at a lesser dollar amount, just for simplicity's sake, would you be okay with that?
I would be fine with that.
I don't mind the 125 for a private use.
I think though, like, let's say Carver Cross, and just like as an example, Carver Cross, he wants to do a garage sale for the residents, you know, and 125 is kind of for people doing garage sales. For
Yeah,
that group, you
That's
know.
right. It's also an argument meant that they've got a real nice parking lot on the other side of the building.
But just considering that kind of group, that kind of.
Yeah, you're right, that's why yeah. But
Like
I-
$75?
I'm good with 75 to start, you know.
Sure.
We'll just make it 75 a day, and we'll just change the notes to private for-profit groups.
Yeah, was that 125, was there any rationale between that number, or was it?
Okay,
And then on the balance on page 9, all those are consistent with the long-term financial plan and the proposed rate for 2022. So those, even though you might not remember them, they're consistent. The only difference I should mention is the water meter charges are based on Chad's investigation of what we're expecting for increases. So that's basically charging what it costs us to provide that meter.
I have a question to back up a little bit. I was looking at the Village Hall rental fees. And Vicki, I didn't ask you this ahead of time, so I don't expect you to know right offhand, but have we seen many rentals that are outside of, let's say, the Lions or the Black Sox or those kind of groups? Have we seen private rentals?
you know, there have been a few, but, you know, with COVID, that really put a big dent in that. And I think what we're finding is people come and look, and then when they see the space and they realize that they have to space people out, it tends to be, I think, too small compared to what they're really looking for. At least that's the feedback that I'm getting. Other times I meet with people and explain, you know, I give them all the information and the rates, and then they don't come back. So I guess I'm not sure, you know, are they coming back or not coming back because they think the rate is too high, or just the space isn't gonna work for them.
Right. So what requirements are we putting down there for spacing at this point in time? Are we doing, like, spacing down there when you say having to space things
Well,
out?
people want to just be able to space people out. We ask them to just
Oh, they
follow-
want to.
They want
There's
to.
no COVID requirement.
Okay,
Yes,
that's what I was
correct.
asking. Okay.
Yes, it's they want to have people more spaced out,
Okay.
or, you know, they want to have like a gift table and other things, and then it limits the space that they can actually set tables up for guests, so. At least that's, again, what I'm being told when they look at the space, so.
And I have heard, again, from a few people who have looked into renting that the price seems high and they will end up going to, you know, Chaska or someplace like that. So for me, I would rather see people using it and try a lower price to see if that gets people to come in than see it sitting empty.
And I think the thing though that we always overlook is there's a commercial kitchen attached to that, so I don't know if there's like, and that's a
Yeah, and that was,
expensive amenity.
but that was paid for by the Lions Club too. I mean, so that really doesn't quite factor in the same.
Yeah, but I think that that's outside of what it costs to rent space.
Right,
because
but
it
I'm
doesn't-
saying if you're trying to equate back to like, well, we have to, you know, that wasn't a huge expense for us to put into it. It's kind of
They're
zero.
also-
Yeah, that's fine.
But aren't they also, if they're going to other places, they'd be using a commercial kitchen there too?
Maybe not. I don't know. It depends what they would use it for. Do they need it or not? I can't say.
Well, we can't compare that. Those are
Right, I'm just
apples
saying,
and oranges.
looking at the number of rentals we've had, we continue to have this room downstairs that doesn't get used except for by the nonprofits or by city meetings, or we can maybe look at adjusting the price and see if it increases the use.
I think it's tricky though, Christy, because we've been dealt a hand with COVID, you know,
That's
like it
true.
opened up, and so I don't think that there's any, I don't necessarily I'm not confident in saying that it's underutilized, because I just think in this strange world that we're living in, maybe there are less large-scale gatherings, just in general, so. I'm still comfortable with the prices that we worked so hard to hash out a few years ago.
How many rentals did we have in it?
I'm sorry,
How many rentals did we have outside other than?
In the packet.
it's in the packet, I'm sorry, I don't have it in front of me at the moment. But there's a report in there each month with the total number of rentals.
And obviously, we understand COVID did a number on it, but it wasn't super highly used the year before.
It opened
COVID
up
hit.
in September.
Yeah, we moved in September
Was it?
and
It
then
was earlier.
COVID was in the spring.
Okay, I was thinking it opened up earlier. I mean, if we want to leave it one more year, but I really think we should keep it. I mean, the world's getting back to normal, and if we look at next year's numbers and it's not being used, then why did we build that beautiful space for it to not just sit there? So, we can go forward this, but I'll bring it up again next year and we'll talk about numbers.
Okay.
I'm fine with that.
Any other questions on the fee schedule? Otherwise, that's all I had. It will be brought back to a public hearing in December. And then you'll be looking at the adoption of the fee schedule at that time.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Vicki.
You're welcome.
Moving on to the snowplow policy. John?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. There we go. Tonight I'd like to review and discuss the snow plowing and ice control policy. The policy was last reviewed in 2013 and there's been some significant growth in the city since then. We've added some new trails, new streets, new neighborhoods. So some of the topics that I'd like to discuss would be pre-treatment, the call-out procedures, snow event priorities, the equipment used during a snow event, hours of operation, and expectations. I think Arwen is a contemporary poet, and this caught me. She loved the snowstorm until she was caught in one. And I believe, as a kid, I loved the snow, but as you get older and you have to plow it and drive in it, it becomes not such a loved thing. And Tim Allen stated it best: when winter forms our character and brings out our best. I truly believe that that is the motto of the Public Services Department, that we want to clean the roads and have safe travel for our residents. And they are a dedicated group, and they work very hard to keep the streets clean. So pre-treatment, City of Carver purchased a brine machine in 2019. We can store a little over 2,000 gallons on site. And the reason that we spray this brine on the roads is to prevent the snow or ice from bonding to the road surface. So when we mechanically try to remove it with a plow or a pusher, it cleans up more easily, and then we also use less chemical or salt to get the roads cleaner. And just a fun fact, the brine is exactly 23.3% salt solution, and that reduces that solution down to a freezing point of about 10 degrees. So when do we call a snow event? During normal working hours, city staff will monitor roads and weather conditions and call a snow event once snow starts to accumulate on the roads. During evenings and weekends, we utilize the Carver County Emergency Management System, which is, they'll send out a page or a text letting us know that their public works is going out to plow snow. So overnights, when most people are sleeping, we'll get the text and we'll call in the appropriate staff.
For the Carver County program, is that county-wide, or do they rely on reports? Because it could be snowing in Watertown, and we
Right.
could have nothing here or in Chaska.
Correct, it's countywide.
Okay,
So if there's, we'll usually send our on-call person to investigate or
Okay.
triage the situation. If they need help, then we'll call in more people.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right, it could be, over in the western side, snowing and blowing, and here nothing.
You might get a call from like a deputy might call it into dispatch.
Yep.
And you get that relayed to you, correct?
Mhm. Correct, yep.
So let's say somebody slides down 4th Street, right, and they call into the sheriff's office, oh, I'm, so slippery. That will get to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So what happens during a snow event? In the beginning of the snow event, we're gonna focus most of our efforts on the emergency routes, the hills, curves, and collectors. Depending on the timing of the snow event, we're also gonna focus on the walk zone trails, the trails going to and from the school, and also the arrivals and departures of the buses at Carver Station. So once the snow event ends and our emergency routes are clean, trails, walk zone trails are clean, Carver Station is clean, then we move down to kind of the rest of the hierarchy, working on the streets. We have another designated person for sidewalks and trails. And then we finish up with city property, parking lots, and ice rinks. As I stated, well, here are the routes. So when the snow is falling, we're focusing just on the emergency routes. Once the snow has stopped, we have a north and a south route. And I also put in there a west route for a future third plow truck. If council would remember, we ordered plans and specs, specifications on February 16th meeting and approved a purchase on the March 1st, 2021 meeting.
But we don't have the truck yet.
We do not have the truck yet. We don't have a definitive date yet. We also have a small truck route, the downtown areas, trails, cul-de-sacs, and ice rinks. So not much has changed in the south plow route. Basically goes Mount Hope and then everything south of 6th Street all the way down to Overlook Drive. The north route has had a little bit of expansion in it. A lot of everything west of GCP and south of 212 is relatively new. And again, once the snow stops falling, they focus on all of the other roads. The red is the emergency routes, and then some of your other smaller, less traveled routes are in the yellow. And then our west or future route would basically be everything west of Jonathan Carver Parkway. And this map is actually the 2020-2021 snowplow trail map. So we've increased or included Ironwood. We've made the connection from Monroe all the way up to the 212 bridge. We've also added some in the Oak Tree area. And we still have everything over on the levee side. So pretty vast network of trail systems. So those walk zone trails that I was talking about, kind of everything in the vicinity of the school is defined as from the head of the Snake Trail on Spring Creek Drive all the way down to 6th Street. This would be on the east side of Jonathan Carver Parkway. And then also from Monroe down to White Pine Way. And then we do Monroe, Ironwood, and Hartwell would be that walk zone. So these would want to be plowed before the kids have to walk to school, and including both underpasses.
You think it's necessary to go all the way to 6th Street in the middle of winter? Just trying to save you some time too. I don't know. Are kids walking up there from?
It would be a lot of that foot traffic from Sunny Ridge, Lorraine Court, Vernon,
You're just running
Wildwood.
it though, because you're gonna run the whole length anyways. You might as well just keep going.
Yeah, it's easy to jump on. It's a good jump on spot for us.
Is all the red the trails that you?
No, the ones with the orange I looked to.
Okay,
It's like, why are you?
Carver Bridge seems a little hard, okay.
Well, Fish and Wildlife seems a little tough too.
Yeah, those we do not. The blue is the sidewalk, so you can kind of tell on the east side of JCP here, we run all the way down the trail to 40, or past 40, Carver Bluff Parkway, and then do that trail up to Overlook Drive.
Okay, and I know that this is a talker every year, but it looks like you're planning on going no further than the edge of the parking lot on the levee trail to Chaska?
We have the 2021-22 map, does have that going all the way to Chaska, to the line.
Perfect, okay, so we'll go there and
Yes.
have we talked to Chaska to see if they'll go to their edge?
We've talked to them, but they haven't confirmed.
Okay,
There is a nice little turnabout, kind of a minimum maintenance road right here where we can turn around. And that kind of defines the Chaska Carver line.
okay, that's where it connects with
Mhm.
161, right?
I guess
Okay.
it's right here.
So that'd be an example, so we'd be plowing the county trail there, which is fine, we've had a lot of feedback, resident feedback, I think that most of you know about that, but it's similar to, the city taking the prerogative on starting to plow Jonathan Carver Parkway, frankly. In that instance, they're plowing it, but the county's choosing not to plow it, but this, I think it's more of an information piece that the city's kind of stepping up to say, we're gonna plow this because we know our residents wanna use it, even though it's a county trail.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, I get it, and I know the discussions that have taken place there the last couple of winters, but if we can do it, certainly, like, I don't care if it takes 3 days after the snowfall for it to happen, but if we can do it, it seems easy enough to get somebody in a truck and once down, once back, and you're done. And I think that it's that kind of, like, simple, and even, again, if it's after the fact, like, that buys a lot of trust capital with our residents. I think a lot of folks enjoy that, and even when it's not plowed, you can see a lot of footprints going through there.
Right.
So, thank you.
And this is our downtown sidewalk system. So it'd be the sidewalk along the retaining wall from the church down to here, all the bridge decks, and then city parks and property, church by the river, public utilities building, gazebo, city hall.
Just as a kind of, if you wanna go back, Chad, just a little nugget up, I'm not sure, Christie and Courtney were on the council at the time, but when 4th Street was reconstructed, we're required by an agreement for right away we got from St. Nicholas to, in essence, clear their sidewalk going up 4th Street, so that's a perpetual requirement of the city, so.
We were on them. I remember.
We weren't,
Weren't
but
I remember this.
involved in the city.
Maybe I was,
It was a thing, so we heard about it.
maybe I was staff at the time, I don't know. I remember it though,
Yeah.
okay.
So what equipment do we use? Currently, we have the 2 large plow trucks. When the third arrives, we'll split off into that western route. Those are specifically just for roads. The 2 loaders are mainly for large flat areas to clean up cul-de-sacs, parking lots. The 2 1-ton plow trucks will be those kind of tighter areas. They're a little bit more maneuverable than the large trucks, so the downtown areas, alleys. The pickup, the skid, and the Toro are more for just trails, and the Kubota snow blower is a smaller unit specifically for sidewalks. So our snow plowing schedule, we do have 24-hour coverage. A and C are 2-man teams or 2-person teams. B and D are 1-person teams. So in a large, long snow event, we will be running 24/7. We have a specific person that shift D that will take care of park and ride in the early morning before the buses leave at 5:30, and then transition to walk zone trails before school starts, and then hopefully transition into the downtown area before City Hall opens up. And then again, we look at the park and ride, the buses coming back in the evening.
This reminds me of a comment that we got during a planning commission meeting earlier in the year. And Chad, maybe you can shed some light on this as well, but there can be a perception out there that when someone sees the park and ride being plowed at a certain time, that's at the cost of a local street not being plowed at that same time. And so I think what Chad's schedule really does a nice job of pointing out that these shifts are taking care of the local streets. So, and then just based on the equipment that we have, the park and ride being plowed isn't being done at the detriment of a local street being taken care of at an appropriate time.
Agreed.
I have a question for you, Chad. When it comes to doing the snow hauling in the downtown area,
Yes.
is there, I mean, do you have a set time, or is it when somebody comes in? Because it's a real long time, it's real loud down here, but the band comes all night long. So I was just curious if there's, I mean, we always come at 3 or 2 a.m.?
It's gonna be that midnight to noon shift, so it'll be early morning hours, I would say, before traffic ramps up.
I mean,
to the
we,
downtown
I'm
area.
not talking about just the plowing, but when we have to come in, actually, we do snow, like
The cleanup.
the cleanup, the
After.
hauling, and we're
Mhm.
hauling in the middle of the night
Yeah.
for a long time. Is that a set time that you always pick, or is it just working around schedules?
It's working around schedules. It's gonna be with no traffic. It's probably the safest
Yep.
and most efficient. We are gonna try something a little bit different. Maybe do some snow blowing versus just scooping, which, you know, you're going back and forth.
Oh, I
and
know.
back up meters.
Yeah.
So there isn't a set time, but we're looking at, obviously trying not to wake anybody up early in the morning.
I mean, it happens, right? We live down
Right.
here, but it's just one of those where it's not like a snowplow coming by doing a pass. It's like, it's hours of
Back and
backup,
forth.
backup alarms.
Right. Well, I'll talk with, I'll see if we can plan some different routes so there's not as much backing up.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
You're welcome. So expectations on the roads, it is nearly impossible to have clear pavement after any snow event. But our process is gonna be mechanically remove it, so plow or snow pusher, similar to the photo on the right, and then we'll apply the appropriate amount of chemicals to try to get some of that pavement showing. I like to see the blacktop, whether it be just some wheel lanes or spotty blacktop, you know, showing through that snow. Our goal is to, after a snow event, not to have any roads look like the picture on the left. And same thing applies to our trails. You know, if my kids were walking to school on the trail on the left, I would probably be concerned. So our goal is to get some of that pavement, whether it be a wheel track or just some pavement showing, to let the, you know, let it absorb the sun and melt off the rest of the snow. And this is a personal photo from about 5 years ago. Beautiful afternoon. Not in town.
My gosh. And it's coming soon. We're all looking at it like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's coming.
Right. Any questions?
It's only marginally related to snow plowing, but when it starts snowing, everybody they're required to remove their cars from the street, is that correct?
If there's 2 or more inches of measurable snow, then they have to have their car off the street until it's plowed curb to curb.
Okay. Does the sheriff's department go around and ticket folks
The
throughout the
yeah,
community regularly?
past
or-
practice is that maybe the first snowfall or 2, they'll issue warnings.
Okay.
Just kind of, did you know, type of pieces, and then they start hitting them with a snowbird violation.
Okay, because I think I shared that I had a neighbor who was concerned about folks who don't seem to move. And you guys are always really good about going through and cleaning up and responding to concerns
Yep.
when there's that pile that's left after the car's been moved 4 days later. So.
Right.
I have a question along that line too. So obviously downtown in the historic district, we have a little bit of a different issue. Some of the houses and apartments down here don't have off-street parking. There isn't really ever a kind of a set plan for what they should do. I mean, saying move your car is one thing, but where do you move it to?
We've traditionally told them to park at the end of Broadway in front of the Temperance Hotel, or where the
Okay.
new coffee shop is supposed to be. So
And what about our little lot off of 3rd Street? What about that one, that city lot that we have there?
we haven't shared that. It's been quite some time since we've had someone ask about it, but there's been enough spots on at the end of
At the
Broadway to meet that. Where it's probably been 3 or 4 years or more since someone's asked about parking accommodation. But we've been in situations too where someone has, I don't know if it's a special event, but we've connected with the deputies and sheriff's office to try to work with folks that are, have unusual circumstances that they're trying to deal with, so.
Okay. All right, I was just thinking if it should come up and we need extra space, since that's a city-owned lot over there, we could use that in addition if needed.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay.
Glenn, any questions? The only other question, you kind of alluded to it. Where's our plow truck?
On a ship, the ocean.
Right, right.
Like, in understanding that everything takes 3 times as long as it should be.
Right, so last update, December 10th, the chassis was gonna be delivered to the company that puts all the accessories on it.
Okay,
So December 10th, we should see it at the accessories place.
and that's the last piece we need? All the accessories
Yes.
are in?
But that may take a month.
Oh.
4 to 6 weeks, maybe.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, and I'm sure everybody's just so excited to get their trucks as we are.
Right,
Okay,
right.
all right. Any other questions?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Moving on, sign and pavement marking policy. Mr. Merrick, I know you're excited about this.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor and Council. Oh, yeah, I'm right.
You mentioned it, that you were excited about this
Yeah,
one.
so, this is what I call probably like a high-touch kind of resident-based policy. There seems to be a little bit of an uptick in email requests or website requests related to speed, stop sign, children at play, etc. And we really don't have a uniform and consistent way of addressing those concerns. It's been more or less handled on a case-by-case basis, but as you can imagine, when you handle those on a case-by-case basis, sometimes you can have problems with consistency in responding to the requests uniformly. And so together with the city engineer's office, Aaron, Chad, and the city attorney, we worked together to develop a process that you'll see in your packet. It provides a system to address traffic concerns. It's kind of Dan Lanis would be kind of at the head of that, of leading that. And that creates a process where they request it, provide information, Dan studies it, and then provides a system for informing the residents of that, the traffic response, whether it's educational or otherwise, speed trailer, etc. And so kind of digging a little bit into the policy, we did put together a couple of what I call policy positions. One related to children at play signs. It's ironic because we had a website call on this today regarding a children at play sign that had either fell over or was damaged in some way, but just based on our kind of collective conversation and just kind of the research in the area, there doesn't appear to be a great narrative for the value of having a children at play sign if you think about where they're located as opposed to where they're not located and the existence of children in general in the community. And so what this policy says is that the city isn't going to consider putting up a children at play sign for those reasons. Also gets into policy positions on crosswalk markings.
Can I talk about children play?
Yep.
Or ask a question? Does that mean that existing children at play signs will come down?
No, but I would say that if they're like damaged, if one falls down, we wouldn't put it back up.
Okay.
Just based on the, when there's one up, quite often someone will point to it and say, well, there's one up in this area, why can't we have one up here? And so,
That's why I'm wondering if.
unless the
they come
council
down.
said, hey, we want to take them all down, we could certainly respond to that request. I don't know if we have an inventory of those signs, but that'd be feedback if the council wanted to take that position, we could certainly follow up on that.
Well, but there's children grow up, right? So then the signs just stay. Like, we don't have any mechanism that goes, like,
That's
so are there 5-year-olds in the neighborhood or they're not 5-year-olds?
There's one on the right of way in our yard
Okay.
that goes, what would be, south on Kirchy, and there are, I think, literally a total of 2 kids on that stretch, so. I would lean towards, like, I guess I'd want more information on how many are in the, like,
Mhm.
is it more than a handful, do you think?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe double digits.
Low double digits?
9,
79
yes.
versus 11.
Right.
Is a
Yeah,
difference.
it is.
I would lean towards wanting to take them out, because you're right, we're gonna get the residents who say, I was on Kirchy, there's one right in your yard, why can't I have one off of Spring Creek Drive or wherever?
And then when we take them down, we have to be prepared, there's probably gonna be people who are saying, you took our children at play sign down.
But reading this, like, I love the rationale of like, it's not unsafe to have your kids play in the roadway, really, anywhere.
Well, if the highway administration doesn't recognize these signs as official traffic control devices, then I don't know, I mean, people buy their own too and stick them, out, I guess. I mean, I'm not saying that's great, but they, I see the little man with little flags on the side of the road. But for me, with the letter of what the law is, if the administration doesn't recognize it as an official traffic control device, then I don't know that we should be on the hook for having them.
So if we, this will obviously be brought to a regular meeting if the council wants to take that position. What I'd envision is we'd put a letter, or we'd put an article in the newsletter saying that, probably this spring, we probably wouldn't try to attempt to do it this winter yet, but, or maybe for the winter newsletter to say that the city will be removing the signs, so there's a little bit of a heads up.
Glenn, I feel like you had something, or no?
I got a sore knee.
Oh, okay. I thought you were shifting around because you had something.
Passionately about children play.
Another common piece of, or a common request, and I probably lean on Aaron Schmidt a little bit on this, is the location of crosswalks. Because as you kind of walk through the community, there are some locations where there are crosswalks and other locations where they're not. Aaron, would you just mind sharing kind of the controlled, uncontrolled intersections and kind of the rationale that goes into that?
Yep. So as it's highlighted in the policy position, so once the pedestrian is in the roadway, they have the right of way, right? So what sometimes will happen is the pedestrian may have like a false sense of security, like if there's a marked crossing in the middle of between two intersections, it's a non-stop controlled area, they might think that they are safer than what they really are, So even though they do have the right of way, it kind of would maybe give a false sense of security in some spots. So really, you need to look at each one on a case-by-case basis. Proximity, is this a walk route for a school? Like, where we want like high visibility here. It's not like a cut and dry black and white thing. It really does take some thoughtful review from an engineering perspective. So that's what we want to lay out here is there's no like, yes, you will get a marked crossing, at this spot. It takes the review to happen to make that call.
And that's, I think, a good segue into kind of the general purpose of this policy is to take a situation away where the council may have someone at a meeting requesting a crosswalk and putting that in the hands of the city engineer based on best engineering and traffic safety standards and practices. Yes, there could always be someone who comes before the council opposing or having an issue with the city engineer's recommendation, but there are, as you can see, there are a number of things that we can do to address, brush trimming when you get to a sight triangle at an intersection, increased law enforcement presence, parking modifications, but it also kind of puts a little bit of the responsibility on the resident. If you get to the last page 5 of 5, when you fill out the study request form, it talks about the time of the problem and specific days of the week, and so I think human nature tells us that if you have a near miss situation with a loved one, that sometimes the inclination is to say we need to put up a sign, because then you can see that visually and say, okay, something is different. But sometimes it's just a case of a bad driver and you maybe can't fix that problem with that one sign at that one time. And so what we're trying to do is maybe demonstrate that there's a consistent safety issue here that could be addressed productively with a sign or a parking change, etc. So again, similar to the snowplow policy, looking for some feedback so that we can bring this back to you at a regular meeting for adoption consideration.
I mean, that's,
I don't have much, I have kind of a random question. So when we're thinking of crosswalks that are appropriate, not appropriate, as we're talking about here, let's just say coming down from Oak Street and crossing Fourth, like where the apartments are up on the corner, the schoolhouse.
Okay.
So a lot of people coming down that road, is that, there's stop signs on these two on Oak Street, but Fourth Street going this length right here, there isn't. So is that considered, it's probably hard
Right
to
over here?
envision. So
Yeah.
Fourth Street right here, so where these, all these lines of cars are coming right now that we're
Yep.
looking at.
Yep.
So when you're coming down the hill or coming this way, there's stop signs here,
Mhm.
but there's no four-way stop, right?
Mhm.
So would this be considered as a, like, not appropriate place to have one because there isn't four controlled stops there?
For the crosswalk, you're
Yeah.
saying?
And I'm not
Well,
looking
this
for like,
is-
so like, it doesn't have to be 100%,
Yeah.
just sort of a feeling like that would be an instance where we would maybe think it's not appropriate to have it there,
This
or
is
would
a-
that be okay?
I mean, this is technically a county road, right, number one, so.
Overly technical, make it a city road anywhere in the city. I know
I would
asking an
say-
engineer to be not overly.
I would say that we probably wouldn't put one there just because there's stop control here, like a block over.
Okay, so that would be a
So,
factor.
This is
say
a
there's
high,
one
high
block
volume
over.
collector street, so you wouldn't wanna be staging a bunch of crosswalks just, down the corridor, so.
Okay,
You'd probably be more direct in where you would put them, Broadway, right here would be the spot to cross safely.
and
so.
that helps you, because I was more curious about what would our reasoning be too, to say, well,
Mhm.
a block away is a four-way controlled stop, so that makes more sense, okay, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
My biggest concern with the crosswalks is painting. I know there's special paints that can actually illuminate the walks versus some of the other paint out there that's dull, tough to see in the rain and stuff. I want them visible more so than anything. Where they are, they are. I just want them visible.
Highly reflective.
Yes. Isn't there glass paint
Yeah.
or something like that, or? But,
There's a latex and then there's an acrylic. Is it acrylic
Well, it's,
or epoxy?
it's epoxy and then it has drop-on glass beads, which is that what you're doing right now, Chad? on the
Yeah, yeah,
crosswalks?
so the glass beads act as a wear course, so it preserves the paint, but then it also adds a reflective component to it. So,
I know it's a lot more expensive, or it's more expensive,
or you have
but they're
to,
visible.
right, or you have to apply it every year. So the latex, you would do every year, the epoxy would be every, 3 to 5, depending on traffic.
And you
Okay.
put glass beads in both of them?
Mhm.
any comments on the policy?
As far as the policy, it's,
I think this is good, how much time is involved? And I'm thinking cost into having Dan look into, putting up no parking signs. I'm just thinking of requests that I've gotten from residents in my neighborhood, or does this crosswalk go here, or?
Yeah, I would say it depends on the request. I mean, some of them are going to be pretty simple, as in like 5 or 10 minutes, just to kind of explain kind of the piece. There could be some occasions where it's a more comprehensive study. I would say the majority of them are going to be the 5 to 15 minute variety of just educating the resident,
Okay,
understanding what the issues are. And it'll be, frankly, a team approach where Chad or Aaron and I will kind of look at it. And if there's a kind of a simple issue like enforcement, or where it's pretty evident that, this could be an area where we could ask the sheriff's office to help us out, then we would do that.
okay, and we'll keep these in a really good file so that if I send an email and then 2 of my neighbors send the same email and the answer's still no, we'll get the same response, and we really can't do anything about like speed limit, can we, on our residential streets? It's 30 because of state.
Well, there is a provision, and it might be a question we can ask Dave during the regular meeting, but I do believe cities are allowed now to reduce speed limits to 25 miles per hour.
Okay,
St. Louis Park is going down to 20 on
20.
residential streets.
okay. Okay, right, Thanks for doing this. I like having a policy in place and a form so that I don't have to ask you, we can just send them to a website. It's all good, looks good. Moving on to the truth and taxation draft presentation, Mr. Merrick.
Yeah, so as is typical, kind of the work session before the truth and taxation hearing, we kind of give you an update on where we stand with the budget and the levy, and then the draft of the truth and taxation presentation so that you can make any comments or suggested changes to the presentation residents will receive. So some of this I'm gonna kind of breeze through because I'm sure you've seen these slides for several years in a row now. So this is the critical piece.
Just so that's a critical piece and there's no information.
So this is a critical piece that we use, me with the Kleenex box. When we get a sample tax statement, so I contacted Carver County last week, so they still have it mailed, not that they should have, but they have it mailed, the truth and taxation statements. I think they're expecting to land maybe the later part of next week. And so we'll take a copy of that and just kind of explain what people are looking at when they see their tax statement. So this is typically the area, especially in the red box, where we see value information from the prior year and the upcoming year. And then quite often folks will want to come to the truth and taxation and have a question related to their assessed value. And so that's not a question that we can answer, the council can answer at that moment. So we provided information to where they can get that question answered via the Carver County Assessor's Office. And then sample tax statement we put in here, and so this describes both the city, county, and school district, and then other taxing agencies' taxes. We go through and explain that the city council is holding truth and taxation on just our preliminary levy, and that each of those other jurisdictions have their own truth and taxation hearing. The general fund overview in our schedule is consistent with what you've seen. We're landing on this December 6th public hearing for truth and taxation. I'm going to skip ahead to some data that has changed since we last met, and that's related to the impact of the levy. So as you remember, this is where we set our preliminary levy, and then the corresponding tax rate. Now, you don't have the tax rate that was set in front of you from the last presentation, but it is an estimate, and so that the tax rate did creep up based on our estimate. So the impact was about $3 as it relates to the estimate. So if you look back and forth between the September presentation and today's, there's a $3 difference. But ultimately, the price is still the same as it relates, or the cost difference is the same from 21 to 22, and so a $96 increase if your home stayed at the same value. That's again an estimate. There's different factors that can make that a variable amount. And then the difference between what would happen if your home went up by the average amount of value. So taking a home that was $328,500 to $335,563, and so with a difference of 133, there was a typo that the mayor had found where we had it at 1433, and so that showed a $153 increase, and so I made that correction. So it's a $133 increase if
Rather than 153?
correct.
Okay.
If your home went up by the average amount. And so sometimes you're going to have a home value that went up by 10% because you finished off your basement, etc. Sometimes it might go down because the homes in your specific neighborhood have sold for less than what the market was telling the Carver County Assessor's Office. And so in a later slide I'll show you, we end up doing a cross section of different valued homes once we get the preliminary statements to kind of give people a good snapshot of where their taxes are at. But this is an updated slide. So this is the preliminary tax rates. The previous presentations you've seen were based on the 2020 rates. And so our 2021 rates, these are preliminary for 2022 for all the Carver County cities.
Before you switch that, I have a question. Looking at all of these towns, do you know offhand if any, I mean, which or all of them have franchise fees besides us?
I know for sure that Jan, Victoria, and Chaska do. I wouldn't want to guess on the remainder. Nearly every city that I've ever interacted with at least has a cable franchise fee. But beyond that, I wouldn't want to speculate on the rest of it.
Could you find that out?
I sure could.
Okay.
I think Waconia does.
It'd be nice to know when people ask questions about the rate that we can say, we are one of two, we are the only, we are one of three in the whole county that doesn't charge this. Because we're being upfront. What was that? Glenn?
Franchise fees.
Yeah.
And then these are the Pierce City rates. Now these
Hold on,
are,
don't run, please.
You okay?
I'll be okay. Oh, the fireman's gone. I'll be fine.
these are the 2021 rates also. These aren't preliminary for 2022 from these cities. But you can see how we stack up against those cities. Again, this is our kind of our change, looking back the last 10 years. And you can see, and although there are different perspectives on how much this should change over a 10-year period, we are trending down, and yes, there are kind of a roller coaster effect depending on the level of capital investment that we make in one given year.
Right, I think that is a really strong slide, and I know that that you put information out to the public. When I was looking through this, I found this one to be very interesting because we hear a lot of our taxes are so high, they're going up, and if you can make this comparison. So if it becomes an appropriate time and place to put this on any of our social media
Sure.
or outlets, I think that this shows a really good picture of where we were to where we are now.
And this is the slide I was referring to, so you can see on the column on the far left, we'll show the estimated market value and their city tax, and then compared to what we're proposing for taxes for 2022. So we'll select random properties at various market values throughout the community, and you'll be able to see, as you can see on the right, or the second from the right, there are different impacts just based on the values. So, and then we finish with the property taxes as a monthly service bill, and then that's the completion of the presentation. And so then our practice is to take that feedback in, have some council discussion, and then based on that we prepare final resolutions for your budget and levy at your last meeting of the year, which I believe is December 20th. So,
Is there and I should know this, is there like a button, or is this easy to find on the website? Is it cityofcarver.com /
yeah, we have
2022?
We have a budget page. Let's see if we can find it here.
I can pull it up too.
Probably not easily accessible. I know Brenda made a page for it, but we can certainly highlight it. Here's the budget guide right here.
Okay.
But we can make it more prominent on the website.
Yeah, if there's a way of, I don't know, can we change that little splash at the top to create an account? Or?
Yeah, we had a header for the JCP project. We can make a
Oh.
header for the
Yeah.
22 budget.
Any other questions, thoughts?
Nope.
I'm excited, and I shared this with you earlier today, but that's, instead of being whatever it is, 153 increase, including the incremental value that all of our homes have hopefully gained in the last year. Something about that $20 makes me feel a little bit more comfortable in that it's not 150.
There's a threshold there.
Yeah, right? Okay. No questions from you guys? Okay. All right, moving on to city manager report.
Just kind of one brief update. We had talked about a kind of facilitated work session with the sheriff's office and Chanhassen, Victoria, and ourselves with the mayors and city managers and some sheriff staff. Our facilitator unfortunately came down with COVID, and so that's been postponed from Thursday to a date to be determined. So.
All right, city council requests?
Nothing.
I don't have anything.
All right, I don't have anything either, so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Henry,
I'll second.
and a second by Councilmember Mott. Get used to it, it's gonna have to go this way tonight.
Yep.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Great, thank you guys.